Some losses are loud. They arrive with sirens, tears, and crowds. Others arrive quietly. They sit beside you at the table, sleep in the next room, and grow slowly. Until one day, you realize what you lost was never replaced. This is not a story about money. Money only makes the silence bigger. This is the story of a man who built an empire strong enough to shake cities, but not strong enough to hold on to his son. This is the story of Adekunle. And this is the story of Toby. And this is the story of every parent who believed that providing was the same as loving. Before glass towers, before private jets, before his name carried weight, there was a boy named Adekunle. He was born in a place where mornings came early, and survival came before dreams, where the rain leaked through zinc roofs, and children counted coins for school fees. His father was present but tired, a man whose hands were calloused from labor, whose eyes were dim from disappointment, whose voice carried the resignation of dreams deferred. His mother was loving but one, a woman who sang while she cooked, who prayed before sunrise, who held the family together with faith and fufu, and who apologized for things that were not her fault. Adekunle watched them both. He watched his father come home late, smelling of sweat and frustration. He watched his mother stretch meals meant for 3 across a table of 5. He watched, and he absorbed. From a young age, Adekunle learned a dangerous lesson. If you want more, you must work harder than love. No one taught him this explicitly, but lessons absorbed young run deeper than those taught old. He learned that love without provision felt like failure, that tenderness without security felt weak, that being present without being successful felt pointless. No one corrected him, because everyone around him believed the same thing. As a child, Adekunle watched his parents argue quietly at night. Not about love. About money. Always about money. Bills unpaid. Dreams postponed. Shame swallowed. He would lie in bed, pretending to sleep, listening to his mother's stifled sobs, his father's defensive silence. He promised himself something sacred. My son will never hear these conversations. It was a beautiful promise. A noble promise. A promise that would cost him everything. He did not know that promises made in poverty often create new kinds of absence. He did not know that running from one kind of pain often means running toward another. But he was young, and the young believe they can outrun patterns. So Adekunle made his plan. He would study harder than anyone, work longer than anyone, build bigger than anyone. He would create a life so secure that his children would never know lack. What he did not plan for was that his children might know loneliness instead. Adekunle was brilliant, relentless, unforgiving with himself. In secondary school, while others played football, he studied mathematics under streetlights. While others chased girls, he chased scholarships. While others dreamed, he planned. His teachers noticed. They called him focused. They called him determined. What they didn't see was the fear beneath the focus, the terror beneath the determination. Because Adekunle wasn't just walking toward success. He was running from failure. And there is a difference. Those who work toward something can rest. Those who run from something never stop. He earned his scholarship, then his degree, then his first job, then his first promotion. Opportunity noticed him, then rewarded him. Each success whispered the same message. Keep going. You're almost safe. But safety kept moving. The goalpost shifted every time he reached it. First it was, once I graduate. Then it was, once I get a good job. Then it was, once I'm promoted. Then it was, Once I start my own business. Safety was always one more achievement away. He met Folek at a corporate event. She was beautiful, yes. But more than that, she was calm. In a room full of people performing success. She simply existed. Adekunle was drawn to her peace. The way a storm is drawn to stillness. Their courtship was brief. Not because of passion. But because Adekunle didn't know how to move slowly. Folek saw his drive. His ambition. His promise. She believed in him. Perhaps that was the problem. She believed in his potential. But didn't see his patterns. She thought his work ethic was about building. She didn't realize it was about escaping. They married within a year. The wedding was modest but joyful. Folek wore white and smiled widely. Adekunle wore a suit he could barely afford and made promises he fully intended to keep. "I will give you everything," he said. And he meant it. He did not say, "I will be with you." Because he assumed that was implied. When Adekunle's son, Toby, was born. The empire was still young. Just a small business. A few employees. A dream taking its first breaths. Adekunle held the child awkwardly, lovingly, briefly. Toby was small. So small that Adekunle was afraid to hold him too tightly. He looked at his son and felt two things simultaneously. Terror. And determination. He told himself, "I will build something so strong that my son will never struggle." He did not tell himself, "I will be there." Because to Adekunle, being there meant providing. And providing meant working. So he worked. Folek stayed home those first months. She learned to soothe Toby's cries alone. She learned to celebrate milestones in Adekunle's absence. Toby's first smile, Folek saw it. Toby's first laugh, Folek heard it. Toby's first word, "Mama." Adekunle heard about these moments. Second hand. Through tired retellings. He told himself it was temporary. Once the business is stable, he said. But businesses are never stable. They are living things that demand constant feeding. Time was traded slowly. Not all at once. This is important to understand. Adekunle did not wake up one day and choose his business over his son. It happened in increments. A meeting instead of a bedtime story. A deal instead of a school event. A trip instead of a conversation. Each trade seemed small. Justifiable. Necessary. Just this once became a pattern. Toby was 2 when Adekunle missed his birthday. An investor was in town. The timing was crucial. Folek understood. Toby was 4 when Adekunle missed his first day of school. A contract needed signing. The opportunity was rare. Folek understood. Toby was 6 when Adekunle missed his school play. A crisis at the factory. Employees depended on him. Folek understood. But Toby stopped expecting. And when children stop expecting, something hardens inside them. Adekunle always returned with gifts. Expensive toys. The latest gadgets. Things other children envied. Toby always smiled. But smiles are not memories. And toys are not presents. The empire grew. What started as a small manufacturing business became a network of factories. Then offices. Then investments. Then influence. Adekunle's name appeared in newspapers. He won awards. He gave speeches. People praised his discipline. His vision. His sacrifice. They never saw the empty chair at dinner. They never heard Folek's careful questions. Will you be home tonight? Can you make it to Toby's game? Do you remember what we talked about? They never saw Toby's face. When his father called to counsel. Again. Toby stopped asking questions. Stopped waiting by the door. Stopped mentioning events at school. Children learn silence early. They learn not to need what isn't offered. They learn not to want what disappoints. Folek tried to bridge the gap. She made excuses for Adekunle. She celebrated him in his absence. She showed Toby newspaper clippings. Look, your father is helping so many people. But to an 8-year-old boy, helping so many people felt like rejection. Why did strangers get his father's time? But he did not. One evening, when Toby was 9, he asked the question. It was dinner time. Folek had prepared jollof rice. Adekunle was home, unusually tired but present. Toby looked at his father across the table and asked, "Papa, do you like your work more than me?" The room went quiet. Folek's fork stopped midway to her mouth. Adekunle looked up, surprised. He laughed. Not cruelly, but dismissively. "You don't understand yet, Toby." He reached across and ruffled his son's hair. "When you're older, you'll see. Everything I do for you." Toby nodded. But his eyes said something else. Because children understand feeling before language. They know when they are dismissed. They know when they are misunderstood. That night, after Toby went to bed, Folek spoke softly. "He misses you." Adekunle sighed. "I know. But what am I supposed to do? Stop working? Let everything collapse? I'm building this for him." "He doesn't want an empire," Folek said. "He wants his father. He'll understand when he's older." But that night, something shifted. A distance that was already present became permanent. Years passed. Adekunle was respected everywhere. Except where it mattered most. In boardrooms, people stood when he entered. At conferences, people sought his advice. In society, people praised his achievements. But at home, he was a stranger who paid the bills. Toby grew polite, respectful, independent. Too independent for a 13-year-old. He stopped asking for help with homework. He stopped sharing stories from school. He stopped saying goodnight. They lived in the same house, but different worlds. The empire stood tall. The relationship thinned. Teachers began to call. Toby seems withdrawn. He's not engaging like he used to. Is everything alright at home? Adekunle attended one parent-teacher meeting. He listened politely. He made concerned sounds. He thanked the teacher for her attention. Then he left and forgot about it. Because in his mind, Toby had everything he needed. Food, shelter, education, money. What else could a child want? Relatives hinted gently. Toby is growing so fast. You should spend time with him. Children need their fathers. He won't be young forever. Adekunle dismissed them. I'm doing this for him, he said. He'll understand someday. But children do not inherit intentions. They inherit absence. Folek tried harder. She planned family outings that Adekunle cancelled. She scheduled dinners that he missed. She suggested vacations that never happened. Eventually, she stopped trying. Not because she stopped caring, but because disappointment is exhausting. And Toby watched all of this. He watched his mother make excuses. He watched his father prioritize everything else. He watched love become transactional. And he learned. When Toby turned 15, he stopped being a child. Not because he wanted to, but because children who raise themselves grow up fast. He made his own decisions. He solved his own problems. He built his own life. A life that didn't include Adekunle. Adekunle noticed, vaguely. Toby's becoming independent, he told colleagues proudly. He doesn't need me to hold his hand. But independence and distance are not the same thing. One is healthy growth. The other is abandonment dressed as maturity. Toby got into trouble once. Nothing major. A fight at school. The principal called Folic. Folic called Adekunle. You need to talk to him, she said. Adekunle came home early. Sat Toby down. Delivered a lecture about discipline and reputation. Toby listened silently. When Adekunle finished, Toby said, "Are you done?" Not disrespectfully. Just, emptily. Adekunle frowned. "I'm trying to help you. Now you want to help me?" Toby said quietly. The words hung in the air. Adekunle didn't know how to respond. So he didn't. The break did not come with shouting. It came with indifference. Toby turned 17. Tall now. His voice deep. His face resembling Adekunle's. But his heart was his own. He stopped sharing. Stopped inviting. Stopped caring. When Adekunle asked about his day. Fine. When Adekunle asked about school. Good. When Adekunle tried to give advice. Okay. One-word answers. Polite walls. Adekunle noticed too late. He tried to connect. Suggested they watch football together. Toby said he had homework. He offered to take him to the factory. Toby said he wasn't interested. He asked about his plans after graduation. Toby said he was handling it. You cannot return to moments you never attended. You cannot build a relationship on the foundation of absence. Folic watched it all with sadness. She had warned him. She had begged him. She had tried. But some lessons can only be learned through loss. The loss was not physical, which made it worse. Toby left emotionally long before he left the house. When graduation came, Adekunle attended. He sat in the audience, proud, watching his son cross the stage. Afterward, he took photos. He smiled. He hugged Toby. Toby allowed it. But allowing is not reciprocating. That evening, Adekunle sat in his study. He looked at the photos on his phone. He saw a young man who resembled him. But he realized, with sudden clarity, he did not know his son. He did not know Toby's favorite subject. His fears. His dreams. His friends. His heartbreaks. His joys. He knew facts. But not the person. The empire stood. Offices in 3 cities. Hundreds of employees. Millions in revenue. The connection was gone. For the first time in decades. Success felt heavy. Adekunle would sit in board meetings and feel nothing. He would close deals and feel empty. The offices were loud. The house was silent. He would come home to find Toby gone. Out with friends. At the library. Anywhere but home. And when Toby was home, he was polite. Distant. Present but absent. Adekunle sat alone one night and understood a brutal truth. He had protected his son from poverty. But not from loneliness. He had given Toby everything. Except what he needed most. He had built an empire. But lost his heir. Not in the business sense. In the human sense. Adekunle tried. He tried to have conversations. Asked deeper questions. Showed up to things. Toby listened politely. Adekunle apologized. Said he was wrong. Said he wanted to do better. Toby nodded. But trust does not rebuild on command. Love does not resume on schedule. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. They can be mourned, but not rebuilt. Adekunle still owns the empire. The factories still run. The offices still profit. The name still carries weight. But he tells this story so others do not repeat it. Because a man can build cities and still fail at home. Because success that costs your relationships is not success. Because provision without presence is not love. It is a transaction with consequences money cannot undo. This is not a story about money. This is a story about time. And time, unlike money, cannot be invested retroactively. The moments you miss do not wait for you to be ready. The connections you neglect do not remain available indefinitely. And children grow. And if you're not there while they grow, you do not get to know who they become. Adekunle learned this. But he learned it too late. If this story stayed with you, if it reminded you of something, if it made you think about your own life, perhaps that's the gift. Perhaps that's the purpose. Subscribe for more stories of wealth, wisdom, and destiny. But more importantly, go home. Call your child. Show up. Before your success story becomes someone else's cautionary tale.